Greetings and salutations, all you beautiful individuals. It is another epi of League Unlock here. Mark here with you fine feathered individuals, and it is a very special epi because it has arrived. We've got it. The beginning of the 2024 World Championship play-in stage, most high-stakes match that you will get, IG versus T1. I'm not going to say this went exactly how people expected, but it teetered on the path a little bit, but the end result is what most people would have expected and what Riot was praying for.
It was a resounding answer at the end of the series as far as who deserved at the end, through that day, through that challenging fight, to be the team that continues on to the World Championship. It didn't start out that way throughout this series, because I think when you look at the way that things played out, you had a very different two halves of this series when you're looking at the first two games and the back half of this series when the way things go through. But yes, it is T1 outlasting Invictus Gaming in the end and securing that position for the LCK at the World Championship.
And really, with this new look format, this is one of the more extreme settings to be thrown into, right? You're going from, both of them were playing high stakes qualification matches domestically, but you're immediately getting dropped in internationally, playing in China on the big stage, a single best of 5 to either send you home or you have the next month of playing at the World Championship. So very bizarre and about as high stakes a match as you'll get apart from being in a grand finals. And you saw the tentativeness, bit of sloppiness. This series, absolutely both teams needed to find their comfort and warm up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's the good way to put it. It very much feels like, going to that water park where they have that really steep slide, and it's the one that has the floor that drops out underneath you, and all of a sudden you're going. It's that 0 to 100 real quick, and that's exactly how this tournament gets underway when you look at the event. And again, the pressure that is on to succeed in this do or die matchup. You're right, where teams were a little tentative out of the gate, having some of that sloppiness still as well. But at the end of the day, it is T1 securing and flexing a little bit of that power to showcase and maybe scare a couple of these teams, considering a fourth seed to be an easy pickings.
Well, ever since DRX, I think we all know fourth seeds are absolutely no joke, especially when they're LCK and especially when they're the two-time defending champions. But obviously, a lot of people are going to talk about TheShy's performance in this set, going from the heroic 1v4 Rek'Sai dive, maybe optimistic, that ends up kind of costing them the momentum in that game, and then of course the Varus pick in game 4, do or die, that amounted to maybe getting a 20 CS lead over the Ornn, and that was the main impact it had.
It's the unfortunate reality that TheShy is like going to a candy store, buying, a bag of Skittles or whatever, and going, oh man, I really hope they've got a couple extra green ones in here. That's my favorite flavor. And you open it up, there's one green one. They're all purple, yellow, and orange flavor. They're not even any of the other mid-tier ones. It's not good. That's exactly what you got out of it with TheShy. You thought you were going to have something here and have a type of matchup, and a neutralizer, an X-factor type of player. He was certainly trying for it, but none of the execution, none of the setups were really there, I think, on the day. And especially, it really all starts with that Rek'Sai going just a little bit extra, a little bit over the top in a position where you didn't have to. That wasn't necessary. You didn't need that extra kill, that extra pressure, that extra snowball to keep this rolling. You do nothing in that situation. And I actually guarantee that you come out of that game with a victory the way things were at the advantage stage for Invictus Gaming and where they could take the game from there. But throwing that over to T1 and the window that it opened up and how quickly T1 all rush through that window and barge on through your house and ransack it. That was the problem for TheShy in game 1, and it extended throughout the rest of this series mostly.
Yeah, and really, for a matchup like TheShy that we know can play some crazy stuff, Thorin was so comfortable this whole series. He gets Ambessa, he gets Cassante, he gets even the Ornn against the Varus. He's fine sitting there. The Gallios, maybe a pick we haven't seen Doran play that often because it's been Faker, but Doran was never even close to being out of the comfort zone in this whole set.
This was about as good as it gets from Doran for T1 and what you're able to see from him, what he's able to contribute for the team. That's what you're hoping for when you're moving into these bigger matches, the more important ones, the ones where the pressure is going to be on, is looking at this type of performance, this type of carry for him. Also, how many times have we ever seen a series where someone gets to play both sides of the broken 200 years of Riot game design coin of Mbessa and Cassante in the top lane? That's
fail
unfair.
and pick ban to ever let that happen, I feel like.
Absolutely, but certainly utilized to the max extent by your boy Doran for T1 in the way that he's able to power through and be one of these win conditions that helps T1 secure their spot in the World Championship.
And again, T1, the War Machine just got revving up throughout this series, culminating 29 kills in 27 minutes to close out that fourth game. And Owner had a rare suspect Jarvan performance. Usually we're talking about him best in the world on that pick, but in games 3 and 4 he returned to that MVP of T1 level, no question. And we also saw some of these other members step up. We got the iconic LeBlanc out of Faker in game 4 where he was finding picks all over the place, and even in the game that they lost you saw that Akali. And even in the first series of the first day of the World Championship, you see the world's buff coming through for most of the T1 members.
It feels almost like, Harry Potter removing the invisibility cloak type of thing for Faker, going, oh, you didn't see me? You didn't see me through all these amazing, great players that you are, clouded by and distracted by when you're looking at the World Championship rosters? Here I am, the boy wonder, the boy who lived right here, Faker, and the way that he was able to play this game, getting to the throwback, but it's not quite the same throwback going to the LeBlanc because
she looks like a new champion now. So
very, very much so. So yeah, it doesn't quite hit the same. But those damage numbers that he's hitting on the enemy team, those are hitting the same for sure, as we know with that infamous LeBlanc that he has throughout his career. I think the other player that I really wanted to mention in this one, you already did hit on Owner, which I think is a key point to talk about with T1. His, change through the first 2 games of this series to what you finish this series with those 2 games of performances. But I thought Guma was also very much so on point, very much so a key contributor for this T1 team. And I think that he was playing almost as aggressively as, towing that line that I have ever seen him play for T1. And certainly it was one of the X factors that was why T1 was having the winning edge on the day.
Yeah, and I think you saw the same flip out of Guma that you did Owner in games 3 and 4. Back-to-back 10-kill games for him, and the Yanara game. I mean, my man was flashing forward at level 4. Like, he's not even doing damage yet. He just had that mindset. And then the Ashe-Lulu combo. Not the typical AD carry you're picturing when you have a Lulu support. But again, you saw T1 willing to play completely around Guma, peel for him. Kyria was right there every step, and yeah, he was confident and the kiting was on point from Guma. Him even more so than Owner. You saw that world's big stage buff that we've seen Guma become accustomed to.
It's one of those ones that makes you go, wait, were we actually talking about Smash replacing this guy earlier in the year?
Oof.
And that's meant to be no disrespect to Smash, who I think is a phenomenal player and will be a great talent to look at in the next year or so, whatever. That can't come at the cost of a starting position for Gumayushi right now, the way that he plays, the way that he contributes for this T1 team. Got to keep that going. You saw it here. I think really it was kind of the killer instinct from T1 kicking in at this point. And again, still some more power was in their corner and everything else heading into this matchup. But it was one of these ones where it teetered on that edge. You still had the way things went in game 1, and without, TheShy's play, T1 doesn't get that opportunity back in. Game 2 goes the way of IG with some back and forth. You could have seen a path for this to go all the distance, all the way to a Silver Scrapes. T1 says, no, we're leveling up. We're shutting this thing down before it gets even to that point where we can have that elimination, where it is even the chance that there's an underperformance, an overperformance on the other side, whatever. We're not letting it get there because we're shutting it down in these next 2 games.
And of course, sliding through now as that fourth seed to advance, ending LPL seasons even earlier than we're accustomed to for T1, and their reward is a Pool 1 team who has dominated domestically for the better half of the year. They get that FlyQuest matchup versus T1, and of course, friendly reminder, this whole first round of play-in or Swiss stage action, it's best of ones. So even drawing T1, by no means is it unthinkable that FlyQuest can take a single game off of T1.
Not unthinkable. Certainly looks like a tough challenge, the way that T1 leveled up against Invictus Gaming, and how you always have to respect what power, what capabilities this team, these players are going to bring to the table. But you are right in the fact that it is a single game. Well, we just saw it in this series. IG is able to take a single game off of T1, all these sorts of things. So you can find an avenue to comfort yourself with that type of one. But I think that this is absolutely just the reward that the LTA needed to cap everything off with no blippo, no representation in the world's music video. Get a crackdown from your boys at T1, the defending world champions, in your first match. Oh, and you know what? They've played probably more than 100, maybe 150 games more than you have this year. But we had to make sure they got an extra best of 5 in against IG before they get you too, right?
Maybe people will start forgiving Whippo, or at least forgetting if they do get an upset against T1. But again, it's only best of ones, and it's less impactful. Obviously, it's best of threes right into round 2. But you look at the rest of the Western matchups for this day 1 of the main stage action, and Koi against KT, that's winnable for Koi. Again, these are best of ones. Best of 5 would be a totally different thing to talk about. G2 against Top Esports, that's absolutely winnable. I even got G2 favored in that kind of matchup. CFO Fnatic, I mean, CFO will and should be the favorites there against Fnatic. But again, it's winnable for most of these Western matchups in day 1.
I think they're very exciting when you're looking at these ones with that, opportunistic set of glasses we love to put on here in North America. Very patented over here when we're looking through things in these rose tints. But I will say, for these matches, you're looking at CFO, Fnatic, and it's one of those ones where there is going to be that question mark of, well, what is Poby on the international stage? Is there a level up and, a secret recipe unlocked from Faker and under all those times when you step onto the international stage? So I want to see that one from him. Want to see how Hong Q is performing, the young player for CFO, and what his response is going to be at this World Championship. You're moving down the list. Koi, KT, our boy Jojo Pyun, pretty good test for you in the mid lane on your responsibility, on your skill level, and how things are going in BDD on the other side, what you've got going on over there. You laid out G2, Top Esports. I think that is absolutely a great early test for G2, because it is absolutely by no means a pushover, a guarantee, anything like that. But it's one of these ones where if G2 is the G2 that we both believe that they are and can be, this is a matchup where you should be able to edge out a team, even a good, strong team like Top Esports. So very much so looking at this schedule for the West and feeling good until you drop on me a BLG 100 Thieves game. I think that one is absolutely one where no matter what good wishes we can have for 100 Thieves in their final tournament here, I don't think it's going to come at the cost of the way Knight has been running the show for BLG.
Yeah, I got much higher odds of FlyQuest taking one game off T1 than 100 Thieves taking this game off of BLG. And, the other tasty, probably the most even and high stakes matchup is that Hanwha Life Anyone's Legend matchup, which, very evenly matched. We've seen them both perform internationally this year already. And again, dropping to 0-1 is really just going to be whoever draws either Hanwha or AL in that 0-1 bracket, probably staring down 0-2, which is the tough RNG to kick off this tourney.
Yeah, it's not a killer right out of the gates type of one. It's obviously one where, yes, your goal is to win, of course, but it is one of those silver linings you can find when you are in that loser's position of saying, all right, we're resetting here. Everyone else here is a loser too. That's who we're up against. That's who we're figuring ourselves up against. We can rally better than they can, right? That's got to be the mentality that you have if you go down into that situation. But yes, it is not the ideal one because of, as you laid out, you can have that bad lady luck on your side going against you and making it so that you are lining up against these squads that are going to fall down. As you said, on with life, anyone's legend. One of them is going down. No matter what you think about the LTA, FlyQuest and T1, one of those teams is going down and heading into that situation. Movistar Koi, KT, one of those heading on down. So there's going to be a G2TES. Just go through them all. But I'm telling you, there's absolutely going to be those stakes in it. And it's one of those things where it hits you real fast how quickly the play-in stage, how quickly Swiss stage gets accelerated and you get to find yourselves in these all new scenarios.
Yeah, and bigger than any of the draws we used to do, again, is when they redo these draws each time. I know there's way less options, but there is a lot more RNG in the Swiss stage. But you don't have to wait long because it's the very next day. We got day one of main stage action at Worlds, and we will be here to break it all down for you. The West finding some hopium, even if they probably lose some of these matchups. It's early, which means we still have a near full dose to get through for this year's World Championship. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you, absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll catch you on that flippity flip.